Alrighty, it is June 9th. Had a couple interesting things happen both this weekend and all of last week. It seems like our parents are fighting and are breaking up. Um,
They're not my parents. They're not my parents. Somebody else's parents maybe, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of people call them Daddy Elon and Daddy Trump.
oh yeah, for sure. First hard breakup of Pride Month is what I was thinking, but um, it's really sad. They seemed like a pair matched in heaven, really.
Hell, but yeah,
Yes, yeah, you're right. I mean, they're like the way they live, multiple baby mamas. They're very similar in some ways, and I found it remarkable some of the Republicans and people who were saying um, how crazy that they were breaking up was. And it's like normal people, everybody in the normal sphere was like, yeah, no, we saw this coming a mile away. Didn't
yeah.
matter if you were Republican, Democrat, anything. You were like, okay, that makes sense.
It was
Like,
it was
it was
more
happening.
when
Yeah,
will it happen?
exactly. When? And like, I'm sorry, like some of these Republicans, I was just looking at their responses and I was like, if that's your actual opinion of this, no wonder. No wonder. Because that is so far, you don't understand people at all if you don't see that.
Yeah.
They both had way too big of egos. And they're both the type of person to, well, just throw people under the bus, as somebody else. Like they'll,
Exactly. I think, and like after I heard everything that happened, I have no doubt in my mind now that Vivek last year kind of saw what was coming, talked to Elon, saw that there was going to be like the butting of heads, and then decided before anything like got really bad, he opted into saying, I'm gonna step down from Doge and just run for office rather than have to compete with
yeah,
Elon.
why would you? I mean, the power that you have as an executive governor in Ohio is much, much larger than you have in Washington. You
Yeah.
know, Elon had a massive amount of power with his little fake position,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff he did, they have to pass those. Well, we assume that they have to pass those in Congress to actually have those, the money taken out from those cuts. But I mean, it doesn't really seem like Congress is going to do much besides, trying to work on this big, beautiful bill that they keep saying over and over again that doesn't even seem to have Republican votes.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see what Marjorie Taylor Greene said about the Big Beautiful Bill? How she didn't read the whole thing and didn't see the AI provision within the bill saying that there isn't allowed to be any kind of control over AI for the next 10 years. Like, did you see that?
I didn't see Marjorie Taylor Greene say anything, but I mean, I saw the AI portion and I did, just thinking about that, that's like AI is something that you're going to have to move quickly on, which we probably won't, but you need to move quickly on it to resolve a lot of those issues because like we're going into kind of a Westworld with AI. And I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to revolutionize and change stuff at a massive scale, but it's also going to not change the human condition much. It's not going to make you 10,000 times wealthier, the average person,
Right.
and it's not going to really do a whole lot to actual improve your lived conditions. So I think we're going to still see a lot of kind of this futuristic technology, but both in AI and outside of, but almost like kind of this same struggle to make ends meet with prices and all everyday life.
And
And I think it's harder for us to ignore those struggles now.
yeah.
Just because of the way we've structured society, and we're in a very volatile time, and you can't escape it in any way. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no, I agree. I AI terrifies me because I mean, even back in 2016, the Obama administration released a report saying that 83% of jobs making less than $21 an hour would be displaced by AI by 2030. And that's not too far out of line with a bunch of other reports, including reports from MIT and Harvard, who have the same duration of like when AI should displace jobs and what communities would be impacted. And if you look at our advancements in technology, we've had more technological advancements in the past 50 years than the first 10,000 combined, right? You take somebody from like 3000 BC and put them in like 580. Their ability to adapt would be relatively easy. But you take somebody from 1970 and put them in today's society, they'd have a mental breakdown with all of the new advancements in technology. And I mean, like we're already seeing some of these impacts. For example, with the self-driving cars and trucks, you're going to see in terms of like self-driving trucks, there's over 4 to 5 million truck drivers that will be displaced by AI. When self-driving trucks are introduced, they're going to be more efficient, more effective. You don't have to worry about working with the middleman. The truck drivers have to can only drive like 8 to 10 hours in a day, whereas self-driving trucks can drive through the night. I mean, there's just so many different possibilities, and it's not even just truck drivers and things like that. You see it at your local grocery store with self-checkouts being expanded. You see this even in medicine now too, where they said that they've created an AI that said that where the best radiologist can reference only like a couple hundred different images, the best AI could, or a normal AI could reference tens of thousands of images to find like certain shadings of gray to see different tears in muscles or possible cancer diagnoses. So, I mean, we're just seeing so many things that are going to impact us when it comes to artificial intelligence and displacement of jobs that I mean the fact that Trump said, I want to get ahead of China in this way is I think it's reckless.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, I mean, uh, it causes a lot of concern because we don't know how it's going to develop. But I also think we sometimes don't take into consideration how many jobs it could create, or also the ways in which it would push people to kind of reinvent what work in a job is, which, will it seems kind of crazy, but like, maybe even conversation about a universal basic income or something. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to rewrite the way in which society operates. I mean, it's if jobs begin to disappear, you can't go yell at people, go get a job, if there's no jobs to be had. And I think it also is important for us to push back a little bit.
I agree.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with self-checkout. I think people's approach towards technology sometimes is, oh, the technology is bad. It nine times out of 10 is probably human beings that are messing it up. And
Yeah,
it's not to say like, I think, you know, we're both at the same time with technology. We can make it better, we can make it work and do things that, it wasn't intended to do, or we can make it do things that are disruptive and damaging and probably just profit driven.
yeah,
Like a lot of corporations would love to cut out the middlemen and cut out workers, but sometimes that's not necessary. I mean, as much as we want to talk about the self-checkout, there's still somebody there who has to run it. I can't tell you the amount of times that I go to the self-checkout and I'm self-checking out, and the attendant still has to come there and type in their little code because it's a random audit or a random check or
I
something.
I see
It's
what I see what you're saying. I think the my pushback to that would be that, when it comes to self-checkout, you can go to a grocery store and see 6 to 8 different self-checkouts, whereas with those attendants, like that's 6 to 8 less
for
positions
sure, for
we're,
sure.
we're
Yeah,
adding.
it absolutely takes out jobs.
Yeah,
That's no doubt. But I think it's what corporations will argue that it can take out as many jobs as they want for their productivity, but they're also not always honest about those things. Like
I agree.
going into a lot of retail stores and kind of having worked in retail space sometimes, you know, uh, what a company says that they're able to do with the amount of people is not always what they want to do. Sometimes they'd have three workloads for one person and say, yeah, that's good enough because they don't want to pay anybody else.
Right.
I think that's when you have to kind of look at worker power and, union power overall, because which that's the only real way that you're going to influence it. And, maybe even looking at maybe certain quotas of uh, you have to have this many actual workers versus AI utilization or robots, whatever we
I
get
agree.
to. I think you for certain industries that makes sense, but also like um, why just completely fire a bunch of humans when you could pair the humans with the robots and operate much more efficiently? There's still some tasks that the robots will not be able to do as effectively as humans.
I agree.
So compare it together, like, I think sometimes if we're creative, we can come up with ways where it's like you can still have those jobs and sustain that growth.
I agree in a sense. I agree that humans can, in fact, work in tandem uh, with employees. Or sorry, I believe that AI can work in tandem with employees and workers, like human workers. I think like my fear is that, there's less of a workload because of AI, right? Like, for example, one of the things that I do at my job is as of last year, I started creating dashboards within a system called Alteryx that automates some of the processes that we're doing. So before we used to have like about a little over like 20 people on our team. Right now, we only have 15. And I kind of realized that one of the things that I was doing was I was making our workload less so that we needed less staff on hand in order to help. So, yes, you're correct. We do need people because, like, whenever there's like any adjustments that need to be made, systems change, obviously, like, I go and make those adjustments so we work in tandem, but it's still reducing the labor force, which I think is terrifying because I didn't actually start picking up on it until earlier this year. And then I started to kind of panic a little bit because, I mean, if my bosses ever see this, I don't know if I'm going to be toast or not, but but it was kind of that realization that they were like, okay, we want to automate these processes so that we don't have to bring on as many people. And what's crazy to me is, like I said, we used to have over 20 people. Now we have 15 to 16. um, I'm not getting paid anymore. I'm not making up the salary that's being missed, which is insane to me because like I helped to create like automations that reduced our labor force and increased um, our revenue, and I'm not benefiting from it at all, which is also kind of crazy too, and frustrating.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not AI or anything. That's age old worker. You're
That is
very rarely gonna you have to push and you have to ask for those things, I think, a lot of times, and that, outside of any one workplace, I think um understanding why businesses think the way they do is also important, I think,
Yeah.
because on the one hand, I hate when they cut jobs and things like that, but I do understand just the arguments of money and things like that.
Mhm.
But I also think that we have workarounds where I believe it was Iceland did the 4-day work week, things like that, where you still get paid the same amount of money, but you only work 4 days. And some people would scream about that, but we didn't always have the weekend.
Yeah.
People used to have to work. I mean, people don't realize quite the struggle that we've had to have to get to having weekends and having 8-hour work days. Like it used to be in the past, corporations would work you want to work 12 hours, 7 days a week. That's fine with us. Like we'll do that and then we'll pay you very subpar wages.
Yeah.
I think it's also kind of like picking apart whether it's the technology aspect and the threat to the corporation and your workers, or is it, just lying and saying um, corporate talk, so I think kind of picking between those two. Um, but I think even outside of that, we're still going to have a lot of instability, especially with that job. If it does attack a lot of jobs, people have less to do and they become, I think, increasingly frustrated, especially in a society that not to kind of tie in, but we're going to continue to see a lot of very, I think, chaotic things from this administration and the world as at large, if we're being honest. So it's important, I think, us to work on human intelligence too a little bit because it's clearly lacking these days. And I think that's also sometimes dangerous too, where we almost become beholden to the AIs and stop thinking for ourselves. I can't tell you the amount of people who just me and ChatGPT. Well, did you check it? Like sometimes ChatGPT just is saying stuff. So you kind of have to balance those things out.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that tweet from about Marjorie Taylor Greene and AI that was kind of like I said, the fact that she didn't actually read. She said, buh, 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 let me see. It says Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling on the Senate to eliminate a provision that would ban state regulation of artificial intelligence from President Trump's big beautiful bill, arguing it violates states' rights. Full transparency, I did not know about this section on pages 278, 279. This is her quote right here, of the OBB that strips states of the right to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. I am adamantly opposed, in all caps, to this, and it is a violation of state rights, and I would have voted no if I had known this was in there. Um, she said, we have no idea what AI will be capable of in the next 10 years, and giving the free rein and tying states' hands is potentially dangerous. Um, I I think this goes back to literacy and how important it is to be literate before you're elected to Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene shows over and over again that she is illiterate and crazy.
That's true, but isn't it interesting that she's right?
She's right, but
And
like,
and I think, and not to say, but I think we're in too much of a screw MAGA and all that type stuff. Yeah, but sometimes MAGA, certain elements actually are more aligned with left leaning and frankly the Democrat positioning. And I
why did she vote yes on it in the first place? Why did
that
she
no, no,
not
I'm not
thoroughly
saying
read?
I'm not saying that she should be in the seat. We should get every single one of them out of the seat by electing somebody who's better.
Yeah,
Completely valid. And I do think that just because she's right in some certain aspects doesn't mean she's right in everything. But my point is that I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene and some of the MAGA types taking better positions than certain Democrats, centrist Democrats typically, or more moderate Democrats, let's be honest,
yeah.
who will sit there and kind of side with the Republicans or the traditional Republican thought towards most issues and things like that. So I think sometimes, in order for us to kind of have some hope that we're going to go somewhere from here,
Mhm.
because MAGA's too big for it to just get, it's going to take years for that to dissipate. I think kind of pulling on those arguments is going to do us a lot more favors in the future because people see it across the political spectrum.
Yeah.
They see what these things are going to do, and it will eventually encourage people to act.
Yeah.
Um, so
All right, we kind of veered off the original topic, so I apologize for going crazy on AI for a second, but I thought that that was important.
yeah, I thought it was interesting actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I'll definitely send you that link about the Trump administration. It's a good read. But or sorry, the Obama administration releasing that report. But what was I going to say? Oh, so Elon Musk decided to tweet up a storm last week. Said that Donald Trump was all over the Epstein list, which I think we all already knew. I mean, we all know he had a relationship with him. Epstein himself said that Donald Trump was his best friend for 15 years. There's multiple videos, there's multiple pictures of them together. Even Donald Trump was saying that he was a good guy and he likes beautiful women just like him. And much of them are on the younger side. It was just like, I mean, it was blaringly obvious that Trump. knew all of this. Um, I whether or not Trump was involved, like actively involved, is up in the air. I wouldn't even say that.
Yeah. I mean, you would
I,
think somebody who said the things he said on tape, the locker room talk. Uh, let's be honest. Like it does seem like there was something there probably.
I agree. I agree with you. But like what my anybody in MAGA, right? I don't have any proof that, Donald Trump was actively, doing what Epstein was doing himself. But what we should all know is Donald Trump was obviously aware of what Epstein was doing. And that we do have definitive proof of. And still kept a relationship. I mean, even Jeffrey Epstein's personal assistant, I forgot what her name is, something Maxine. He said that, after she got arrested, um, I hope she's doing well or something along those lines, which is just a crazy thing to say after a pedophile gets arrested. But uh,
I mean, I think I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell, I thought it was funny that Elon said that because there's a whole picture with Elon and her at some
yeah,
event together. So it was like I kind of believe Elon because I feel like he would know. Like you would know. You were probably at the at it with him.
yeah.
Um, not to say that like who knows. I think sometimes we'll sit there and they'll release all the logs and you'll assume that every single person that met Epstein was just like having sex with a 12-year-old, and it's like that probably wasn't the case. It's probably a little bit different than what you think,
It's
right?
more nuanced, right? Like the Diddy
Yeah,
situation. Not every person that works with Diddy was probably,
yeah. It's
you know,
not the Illuminati and every single person that and Diddy has tapes on people and that's why they didn't do it.
right.
Too many conspiracy theories these days. Because also I think people think people are so much smarter. I really think people are just kind of dumb. Like we get into these situations and things, and I'm like, you think they're like some mastermind villain, and it's funny because they think they are, but it just comes off as like, what are you doing? Like this is crazy.
Well, I mean, Republicans for years were saying like how Joe Biden was like some mastermind that, tricked the American people and was super corrupt and, stole all of this money for his son, this, that, and the other. And then on the other hand, all of them were saying, well, he can't string together a coherent sentence to save
Yeah.
his life. It's just like,
He's a mastermind in the back, but he's also stupid and seems like
right,
he can't do anything.
right.
It reminds me of the Kamala Harris, right? The reason she got the vice presidency that somebody said was she was black. Then running for the election, she's black? What do you mean she's black? It's like you literally switched up and no one questioned it. Everybody said, yeah, I don't think she's black. Like, do you not realize that you were just saying 6 months ago, how dare they pick her just because she was black?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I do think to kind of like tie it back in a little, I think so often people in these situations, they'll say, like, I forgot what I was going with that. But just back to, I was trying to tie back the situation. I just didn't know how to get it back there. But yeah, I mean, I just think a lot of the situation around that is kind of crazy how the cognitive dissonance from Trump's words and deeds and who he's been, right? Like they almost sane wash him into a point where he's been in a loving relationship with Melania forever, and he's never had multiple wives and cheated on them, and we all knew it. He's never been in tabloid magazines. He's never been hanging out with people. I mean, Trump literally is quoted, "I like Diddy," which he probably didn't know what that was about, but it's funny. It's like when you hang out, like, and I also think I've never met Jeffrey Epstein. You've never met Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like people who haven't met him and don't know him, I have a whole lot more credibility than somebody who's like, yeah, I hung out with him a little bit. He was my friend. We just hung in the same circles. That's
Yeah.
concerning. Like you're in the circle with that. Like,
Exactly. And not only that, like they're refusing to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. Like it's kind of crazy because the first thing Kash Patel was talking about when before he was sworn in into the FBI was, I'm going to release the Epstein report. I'm going to release the Epstein files. I'm going to release the Epstein files. And now all of a sudden it's just like, well, it's a matter of national security. A lot of the people on the Epstein list, this, that, and the other. It's just like it's so clear. And then people are asking like, if Trump is on there, why didn't they release it like 4 or 5 years ago? They were like, clearly he's not on it. And I'm just like, no, clearly he is. The issue is that, and nobody disagrees with this. There are Democrats on there too. Democrats are not absolved from being on the Jeffrey Epstein list. But, our our party leader, which I mean, realistically, we don't have one, but like our previous party leaders, including Obama and um, Biden, are not on there. Whereas their current party leader, Donald Trump, is very clearly on there. So like there's a huge difference. And this is why I truly believe that they haven't released it is because I think that on Democrats' side, there are people like a Bill Clinton, unfortunately. You have to acknowledge that he was very clearly friends with Jeffrey Epstein, was also caught on the flight. We all know this. This is not anything that's news. Whether or not he did anything, that's up to debate. I don't know if he did. I don't believe that he did, but was he aware of it? Do I believe that he was aware of it? Absolutely. Same with Donald Trump. I believe that he was aware of it. Whereas Donald Trump, I mean, it's just so clear as day, and they just make every excuse. They're like, "Oh, well, there was photos of Bill Clinton and him together." It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's photos of him and Trump together. I mean, why are we not pointing that out either?
Also, do we not remember like years ago, Republicans would have freaked out that they had a former Hillary Clinton donor as the president. Like
Yeah.
they were friends. Hillary and Bill went to Trump's wedding.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, it's changed. They're not friends anymore. But I mean, there's always that conversation where it goes back to Hillary and Bill. Whenever you mention anything like that, I feel like it. And it's like, one, I don't know why you always involve Hillary in it. Because even if she knew something or whatever, I kind of get like that's just a little weird to just rope her in and be like, yeah, she killed Jeffrey Epstein. Like it was always Hillary that did it. And I was like, wouldn't it be Bill? Like
Yeah.
if like why would it be
I
Hillary?
don't I
Like
don't
when
think
Bill was the president, like
Yeah, I don't think Hillary had anything to do with that. That's the thing.
no.
I mean, Bill Clinton was clearly a cheater. He constantly cheated on her. Like her issue was that I think that she was a little too religious in Christianity. It's a sin in order to get divorced. And, her time growing up, I mean, it was probably like very, very frowned upon like getting divorced in any capacity, even after cheating. Plus, Bill Clinton was the president of the United States at one point. Like, it's going to be very hard to have any kind of
I think she
distance.
would have been the president if she would have divorced him. Not lying. I really think she could have won 2016. But, water under the
She
bridge.
did. She got the popular vote. Fuck the
Hey,
Electoral
that's
College.
not how the Constitution works,
Fuck
unfortunately.
the
Uh,
Constitution when it comes to the Electoral College. It makes absolutely no sense. It's literally if as much shit as Republicans talk about DEI, the Electoral College is quite literally DEI. The Senate is quite literally DEI. It makes absolutely no sense. Look at every election since 1996. The Trump just finally barely scraped a win in the popular vote, and then George W. Bush only got one win in the popular vote as well from both of his elections. Right now, we would have, other than this, if you don't count this past election, for the past like 30 years, we should have had a Democrat as president. That's just the reality of the situation. But instead, we keep this antiquated system in place that, like I said, every single time they complain about DEI, I'm just like, did you know that California has more people than the bottom 15 states combined? And they get 30 votes, and they get and California gets how many? Two for the Senate? Come on. It doesn't make any. I'm sorry. That's another conversation for another day because I get so heated whenever people talk about DEI and then can't acknowledge that both the Senate and the Electoral College are exactly that. They are exactly that.
DEI is only when it's a person of color, a gay person, anybody who's not white. That's what that refers to. White people can't be DEI.
White
And
straight, white and straight.
no, no, no. Well, yeah, I guess straight, but
And oh sorry, and male. We, they have to be white, straight, and a male.
isn't that like I find it funny how they like delete themselves from the diversity pool. They're like, "Oh, we're not diverse. We're normal." And it's like, no, you're not. You're literally not. Like
Right.
the world is just normal is nothing. Like
Uh anyways. Shoot. I'm sorry. What were we talking about before I got into the whole I don't even remember.
AI stuff like that. But I say that we can do the we were going to also talk about what's happening in LA and the not nationalizing the California National Guard. So we can do a video on that soon and see how that kind of shakes out.
I'm free tomorrow, so if you want to do something tomorrow, we can definitely shoot for tomorrow. If not, we can do it sometime later this week. I'm fine with either or. Um, but great conversation today. Sorry I got a little off my rails at the end here. It was just it was a little overwhelming talking about DEI and the Senate and everything else. Anyways, we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much to Chase as usual, and hope you have a good day, my friend.
You too.